Hey guys, and welcome to another Walk-In Wednesday. Today I'm going to talk about a very special General Officer's pistol. Now this pistol and these accoutrements, there's more of it over here. I'm going to show you all of this, came from Brigadier General John Bianchi. Now he is an American legend. If you recognize the name, that could be because he is one of the largest producers of military accessories, mostly leather goods, for law enforcement, civilian, and military, of course. John Bianchi is well known to millions of Americans because of all of the accessories that he has produced. So we're going to talk a little bit about the man. I'm going to talk about the gun. This is all items that he carried. But before I do, first of all, I want to do a shout out to Otto. Otto sent us some accessories this week, and actually just yesterday, and we got these strudels. Check it out, from the Netherlands. Otto's from the Netherlands. We can't get these here in the United States, so we really appreciate it. You'll know it's a stroopwafel, and those of you in Europe probably know all about these. Now, we got a couple of these, and you can see we chowed down on them. So everybody at Legacy is so thankful to you, Otto, that we are going to send you a free, fully operational MP44. Maybe that would encourage others to do the same. Okay, that was a joke. I have to say that because some of you just don't get me and take me way too seriously. The other thing that I wanted to mention is this week we got 3 fairly large collections. Actually, the third one is on its way here now. Most of you know Kurt from the videos, and he is sending those back to us, but we have about another 100 to 200 guns coming in. You can see here we got a couple collections this week, a lot of new inventory coming in. So you want to, if you haven't already subscribed, you're going to want to subscribe because I'm going to be going over a lot of these treasures real soon. Now, let's talk about John Bianchi and his officer's pistol. For some reason, there's been a good number of General Officers pistols that have come to market. I'm aware of one auction, actually the auction where I got this assembly. They had over a dozen General Officers pistols for sale, and also I noticed online that somebody was selling off a large collection. I think they had about 30 or 40 General Officers pistols. When we have bought them in the past, they almost always are 1903 or 1908 Colts. We did a video of one that was issued to General Stilwell, and you can go back and review that one if you like. We also did a General Officer's pistol that is just a smaller version of the 1911, and you can see that here. It's about the size of a Colt Commando. That's in .45 caliber. The others were 38 and 32 caliber. Which is an interesting segue into this pistol. Let's check this out. First of all, you couldn't help but notice my, my helmet. And I have to say, I was not in the military. Those of you who are in the military, you probably understand. I'm echoing up in here. It's actually like putting a seashell up to your ear and you can hear the ocean roar. That's what it's like, so I'm going to take this off real soon. But this is the General Officer's belt, by the way, made by Bianchi. And the belt buckle, you can see here, this is a Bianchi style holster. Very cool. Pull this down and it just pops back up. This is real tight. I'll show you a little bit about how this is designed. But Bianchi International got the contract for these military and police officer belts and holsters. And then this is the gun itself, which is a Beretta Model 92, in the military also known as the M9. There's a few modifications from what I can tell. Those of you who watch me regularly know that I don't collect anything after 1945, so this is not necessarily something I know a lot about, but I do know that the military went from the 1911 A1 Colt to the Beretta 92, Model 92, in 1985. Now, they still do some special troops and special forces still want the 1911 in .45 caliber, but this is a Beretta in 9mm. Okay, I lost the echo. Now I still have a red mark right here. I think that'll go away within the next 10 years. Again, those in the military know what it's like when the band's a little too tight, and the belt, I have to say the belt was a little tight on me. That must be because the muscle mass that I have. So let's talk about the man first, and then I'll talk a little bit about the gun. John Bianchi is one of the best known personalities in the firearms industry. He's familiar to millions of police, military, and sportsmen throughout the world. He's responsible for revolutionizing the design and the engineering of handgun holsters and related products. He's actually the founder and former president, now chairman of the board, retired, of Bianchi International, the world's largest manufacturer of quality firearms accessories. By the way, he started his business in 1958 and has been in the firearms business for more than 55 years now, and he's responsible for over 200 patents. What I'd have to say about John Bianchi is, not all wartime heroes were on the battlefield. Although I love generals that were on the battlefield. I think of General Patton and actually General Stilwell that we talked about before. These were fighting generals, but there are also generals who are expert at logistics, and that describes John. Now that you think the logistical job is not that important, but if you're watching the current war over in Eastern Europe, you will know that there is a country whose logistics or lack of logistics that has gotten them into a lot of trouble. So wars can be won or lost by the people behind the desk and people in charge of logistics, and that's who John Bianchi was. One of the stories that I read that I found most interesting was he started making holsters in his kitchen when he was 12 years old. That's right. He would play with cowboy guns. He always said, I wish he had been born in a different time and place because he loved the wild, wild West. And so he had cowboy guns, and they just didn't, the holsters didn't fit quite right. The quick draw wasn't quite right. So he started designing holsters for early Colt revolvers when he was only 12 years old. He started his military career by joining the National Guard, and it was the California National Guard in 1953. And he stayed in the National Guard until he became the commanding general overseeing all of the California National Guard, which, by the way, the state of California is larger than some countries, so he had quite a bit of responsibility. He retired the first time in 1997 as a Major General of the California Military Reserve. He was asked to come back into service after 9/11. So 2001, after he'd only been retired for about 3-4 years, they asked him to come back to actually help with the redesign of a lot of the military equipment, particularly for warfare, not so much against other countries or large entities such as Russia or China, but in fact, to make the transition to special forces, small teams, special forces, and they had specific things they wanted in terms of the sidearm and the belt buckles, and they gave him a list of things that they were looking for special forces, and that's what he did after 9/11. He came back in, they needed personnel. As you know, a lot of military reserve were called up, and he was called up for the California Military Reserve. And so once again, he was the commander there. It was during this time that he helped with the redesign of accessories to go with personal weapons such as knives and sidearms and additional magazines and things like that. So he was very involved in creating things for the military, also for the police and civilian use. We just happened to, with one of the collections we got, I had to chuckle because look what came with one of them. This actually is for a Walther PP and PPK, so it was a modern gun, but you can see here it was Bianchi. Now, this is not Beyonce, by the way. It's different. All the single ladies. This is Bianchi, and there's the company logo right there. We're going to see that when we look at the gun as well. I mentioned earlier that he was in love with the earlier era of the frontier and the different cowboys, and he actually bought enough guns to start his own museum. And so he made this huge museum. I think I read it was like 25,000 square feet, where he displayed all different kinds of guns. It was a gun collection, but most of the guns were from the Single Action Army, early Colts, frontier guns, mostly revolvers. So besides being a breeder general and helping out with the special forces, he was running this museum and running Bianchi International, a very, very busy man, very accomplished man. And he ended up retiring the second time in 2004. So at this point, he was just running his company, and he sold off the museum. And interestingly, I found it interesting, He sold the museum to Gene Autry. That's right, the cowboy singer. Again, not Beyonce, but Gene Autry. Back in the saddle again. So now let's take a look at the gun and some of his other personal belongings. We did try to get in touch with him, and actually a lot of the things that we got had his number and how to reach him. We did reach out to him. He declined to do an interview. My sense is he's getting up there and his health is somewhat impaired, but he does live in Rancho Mirage, California, and hopefully live in the dream. I said let's take a look at the gun, but before we do that, of course, a two-star general. I never have worn a general's hat, let alone a two-star general. A two-star general. Here is the insert. This obviously wasn't worn a whole lot. I think toward the end of his career, he's probably marching in parades and events. I know he did a lot of charity events. You can see right here, his name is written in the helmet. It was very comfortable, by the way, in spite of the red mark in my forehead. Here is the gun itself. This is not marked U.S. property, so this might have been a private purchase, although I'll show you the grips. He does have officer's grips. And technically, the model is 92F, compact 9mm Parabellum, also known as 9mm Luger. I mentioned the switchover was in 1985. Not quite sure when this gun was made, but I think we'll find out when we take a look at the box it came in. Why did they go from the 1911 .45 caliber to this? I can't give you all the reasons. Some of you will chime in because you study U.S. military history. I mentioned that I pretty much stopped my research in 1945, but a couple things that I would point out, it's a great design. I find it easier to take down than the 1911. It does hold 13 rounds, which is, of course, more than the 1911. It does have some of the design of the Browning High Power. If you look at the magazine and the mag capacity, this looks a lot like the Browning High Power. So it seems like Beretta took some design from some very successful guns. The second one I want to mention is the P38, because they do have a slide stop here. And that's a you do see that on the 1911, but also on the P38. So all you do is rack the slide, and the slide stop does hold in place. Again, that's on a 1911, but also you find that there is a slide stop on the P38, push up from the bottom. Here you push this button, and the takedown lever, it's just so simple. Takedown lever comes down like that, and then you release the slide stop and it pops forward. See that? Once again, I got my gloves, and pops right off. So and the magazine is still in it, so it comes apart. This looks a lot like the P38. There are some design similarities with the P38, and they made those, I don't even know if they still make them today, but I know they made them into the 90s and 2000. Here's the spring, comes right off. Comes right out very simply. The locking block, you just push that forward just like the P38, but instead of exiting that way, you pull it out this way. And also the other thing that I notice is it does have a lined barrel. I'm assuming that is for extra strength. You can see how it's polished, and this one has a little bit of powder in it, so he did shoot this gun. It's got some powder in it. And then simple to get back together again. Okay, so then we just popped it back together again. And as I said, one advantage would be it's a lot easier to disassemble, get the barrel out, and replace the barrel as needed. That was really simple. And then extra rounds, some people would say, I prefer a .45 caliber, but for me, if I got shot in the head with a 9mm or a .45 caliber, I don't know that I would notice the difference. Now these are the factory grips, which is the logo for the Beretta. And here you see the initials for the Beretta factory, but it comes with these grips as well. This is the presidential seal, or the military seal, and it has his name on it, Brigadier General. So this came with it. You could put that on it. This is what he would put on it if he was carrying the pistol, because this was awarded to him, or maybe he purchased it. People get on there and say, you're not, well, they could have given it to him, or he could have ordered that, certainly as a brigadier general, he could have warranted a officer's pistol. But he also comes with these grips. Could have been presented to somebody at the factory, because here you can see there's the factory logo, and it says Bianchi gun leather. So this is the factory logo. And so another thing he could have done is ordered 10 of these and put different loyal employees, 20 years service, and award them with a pistol as well, which is something that may have happened. Let me show you the box it came in. Here's the Beretta silver box and the box inside, and you can see Major General. Later we see Brigadier General, but this is Major General. That's his address in California. This is made in Italy, and there's the box with a spare magazine. We're going to see other spare magazines. The box is numbered to the gun. I'm looking for when the gun was made, and I haven't found that yet. We do see, I believe this is unopened, so I'm not going to open it. And I don't see a date on the back. I don't read Italian either. But here is the Model 92. There's the original manual and a warranty that comes with it. This came with it, and so it was an invitation that was sent out about the General Patton Memorial Museum, and that's in California as well. You can see they were honoring him that day. There's his name, along with, that's a picture of the General Patton Memorial Museum. When I showed you the helmet, I didn't show you that it does have the camouflage cover. And I can just imagine, again, some of you are going to chime in. They probably, once you put this on, you don't want to take it off again. But there's the cover, camouflage cover, which was used in Vietnam and thereafter. But I did want to show you, here's the general officer's belt buckle. And this is, I'm used to the Germans, how their belt buckle attached. And this is actually a pretty simple design. You just pop it in and go like that. For most of you, you would know that already, but if you're like me and hadn't seen one before, you thought, oh, that's pretty clever. There's the maker on the back, and you do see actually 1902 General Officer's buckle, and this says Bianchi. So this is made by their factory, registered trademark. So they made these belts and buckles along with the belt. And by the way, once this is hooked in, it doesn't move. Very well made, very sturdy. You can see the design. You can't really move it, but it's real simple. You push down and over, and that pops off. Pop the other side off, and then you can see how easy it is to move. That's marked US, and this is also made by Bianchi International, and it would be a G100 General Officer's model. Now, that is a little bit cumbersome, but the point is, once it's attached, it's not going anywhere. Once you pop those in there, it's not going anywhere. But what I liked about this is how easily it quick releases. So you're banging around in a truck or a vehicle or running through the woods. This is on there tight. It's not going to pop off. But if you need it in a hurry, all you do is pull down and it pops right up. Great design. You can see metal piece fits right under here. Pop it off. This is somewhat worn, so he probably did wear this. Again, he wasn't going to a lot of meetings with this, but he probably was in a lot of events and presentations and parades. So this was actually used by Brigadier General John Bianchi. Here's the same mechanism I showed you before. You pop those onto the belt, and this is the magazine pouch, and that would be a G115 Bianchi International. And there's the spare magazines, again 13 rounds for the Beretta 92. This is the hanger for his personal sword. This looks almost unused, so I assume when he did make appearances, official visits and appearances, or probably inspecting the troops of the California Military Reserve, he would wear his sidearm, but it doesn't look like this was ever worn. And you could imagine walking around with this. Now, I learned a couple of things here. First of all, U.S. Army officer's sword. And look at the maker, WKC. That's not Kentucky Fried Chicken. WKC, Solingen, Germany. So made in Germany. Those of you Germans out there, you will know, if you collect German daggers, they made the Third Reich era daggers as well, and parade swords, and so well respected even by the United States military that they contracted with this company, WKC, founded in 1883, and we know that they made a lot of daggers and swords throughout World War II. So this is his sword. You can see here, by the way, I mentioned presentation sword, retirement. So this was awarded to him, what did we say, 2004, and his information, his personal information is on there. And you can see here, to Major General John Bianchi, and it says, from the grateful men and women of the State Military Reserve, SMR, commit the reserve. So I'm sure that's a logo. State Military Reserve, all the states would get together and have combined meetings, and I'm sure as the commander of California State Reserve, he would have been in all of those meetings and conferences. Another thing about this, this, like I said, this is brand new. There's not a nick or a dent or a scratch on it. This is an engraved sword. And there is the symbol of the United States, the eagle, with the stars above here. But what's one thing I found interesting, German sword, and that is a Star of David, but somebody will write in and tell me the significance of that, but that does look like the Star of David. I'm sure that it's not. And then you do see the same logo here. If you take a look at this dagger, you can see that this same dagger that was made for Third Reich officers was also made for U.S. military officers with the same logo, established in 1883. So they have a long history of making military swords. Here you can see U.S. His name is not on the sword that I could see, but his name, as we saw, was on the scabbard. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something today. Make sure, I don't know what that echo is. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned because, as I already mentioned, we've got a lot of really cool items to show you.